The trading post hung in space like a shiny coin caught in a beam of light. It spun slowly, showing its different sides to the stars. Ships of all shapes came and went from its many docking bays. Inside, people from Earth mixed with beings from 100 different worlds. They all came to trade, to talk, and to rest before the next long jump through space. Chuck Norris walked through the main entrance of the trading post. He wore simple clothes, worn jeans, a faded red shirt, and an old cowboy hat that had seen better days. A small bag hung from his shoulder. His face showed lines from years spent under many suns, and his beard was starting to show gray. But his eyes were sharp and missed nothing as he looked around the busy trading hall. Most beings paid him no mind. The aliens did not know who he was, but here and there, humans would stop and stare. Some would nudge their friends and point. A few even stepped out of his way as he passed, though the hall was wide and there was plenty of room. Chuck ignored the looks. He had a job to do and very little time to do it. The trading post sat at an important spot in space. Ships had to pass by it to reach Earth and the other human worlds. And right now a fleet of Vraxian ships was on its way. The Vraxians looked like giant insects, with hard shells and too many arms. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they couldn't take. Earth knew they were coming. Special devices hidden in deep space had spotted them 3 days ago. But if Earth warned everyone, the Vraxians would know their movements were being watched. So instead, Earth had sent Chuck. He made his way past stalls selling foods from a dozen worlds. He walked by shops full of strange devices and tables covered with maps of stars. At last, he reached a small store near the back wall. A sign above. The door said, Miller's General Supply. It was one of the few human-owned shops on the trading post. Chuck pushed open the door and stepped inside. The store was neat and clean. Shelves lined the walls filled with things humans might need while traveling in space. There were packets of food that would not spoil, tools for fixing small problems on ships, medicine for common sicknesses, and even some books made of real paper. At the back of the store, behind a counter made of smooth blue metal, stood a young man. He had short brown hair and wore a clean white shirt with the name Frank written on a small tag. He was sorting small boxes on a shelf and did not look up when the door opened. "Be with you in just a second," Frank called. Chuck walked slowly through the store. He picked up a few things he might really need: a new pair of gloves, some food packs, and a tin of polish for his boots. When he had what he wanted, he went to the counter and set the items down. Frank turned around. "Did you find everything?" His words stopped when he saw Chuck. His eyes went wide for a moment, then he smiled in a way that showed he was trying not to laugh. "Something funny about my purchase?" Chuck asked quietly. His voice was low and calm. Frank tried to stop smiling but couldn't quite manage it. "Sorry, sir," he said, still fighting a laugh. "It's just, I've heard all these crazy stories about Chuck Norris since I was a kid. People talk about you like you're some kind of superhero. And here you are buying space rations and boot polish." Chuck watched the young man. He was used to this. Young people often didn't believe the stories. Why should they? Most of the stories weren't even true, just tall tales people made up. But sometimes not being taken seriously was useful. "The universe is full of surprises, son," Chuck said simply. Frank started to ring up the items. "I mean, people say you can breathe in space without a suit, that you once punched a hole through a ship's hull with your bare hand, that alien races change course when they hear you're in a sector." He shook his head. "And now you're in my store, buying normal things like a normal person." Chuck said nothing. He took out a small card to pay for his goods. "So what brings you all the way out here to the edge of nowhere?" Frank asked as he bagged the items. "Not much happens at this post. Just ships passing through, traders making deals. The most exciting thing this month was when the food machine in the main hall broke and gave everyone green soup instead of coffee." Chuck took his bag. "Sometimes quiet places don't stay quiet," he said. Frank raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" Before Chuck could answer, a low sound began to fill the air. It started soft, then grew louder, a deep rumble that made the items on the shelves shake. The lights flickered once, then again. "What's that?" Frank asked, looking up at the ceiling. "Trouble," Chuck replied. He knew what was happening. The Vraxians had arrived earlier than expected. A voice came over the trading post's speakers. "Attention all beings. This is Security Chief Ramirez. We have an unscheduled docking in progress. All visitors, please return to your ships. All residents, please go to your living spaces. This is not a drill." The rumbling grew stronger. Now the whole store was shaking. A few items fell from the shelves. Frank looked scared. Unscheduled docking? That never happens. All ships have to file plans days ahead. Not if they don't care about the rules, Chuck said. He looked at his watch. The Vraxian ship would be forcing its way into the main docking bay. Right now. In about 5 minutes, they would be inside the trading post. In 10 minutes, they would start taking what they wanted and killing anyone who got in their way. Frank came out from behind the counter. "Maybe I should close up the shop," he said. He seemed unsure what to do. The lights went out completely, then came back on with a red glow. Emergency power. That meant the Vraxians had already cut the main power lines. "It's too late for that," Chuck said. "Son, I need you to listen carefully. What's about to happen isn't random. Those aren't normal traders out there. They're Vraxians, and they're here to take this post." Frank's face went pale. "Vraxians, but they strip whole planets bare. They're monsters." "Yes," Chuck said. "And right now you and everyone else on this post are in their way." The speakers crackled again. "All security personnel report to main docking bay. We have a breach. Repeat, we have a breach." There was a sound of distant shooting. Then the speakers went dead. Frank started to panic. "What do we do? The nearest help is hours away." Chuck put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "First, we stay calm," he said. "Second, I need to know the fastest way to get to the emergency shuttles." "Bay 4, Frank said quickly. "But why?" "Because when I move, you're going to get as many people as you can to those shuttles," Chuck said. He took off his hat and set it on the counter. "I'll buy you time." Frank stared at him. "But there are dozens of them." Chuck pulled on his new gloves. "Then it's a good thing some of those stories are true," he said. The whole trading post shook again as the Vraxian ship locked itself firmly to the station. The sound of shooting was getting closer. "Stay here until I clear a path," Chuck said. "Then run for Bay 4 and don't look back." As Chuck turned to leave the store, Frank called after him. "What are you going to do?" Chuck paused at the door. "I'm going to negotiate Earth's terms of non-surrender," he said, and stepped out into the chaos. Frank watched through the small window in the shop door as Chuck walked calmly into the main plaza of the trading post. Around him, people ran in all directions. Some screamed, some cried. A few tried to grab their goods from stalls before running away. The red emergency lights made everything look strange, like a bad dream. Then the Vraxians appeared. Frank had only seen pictures of them before, and the pictures did not show how scary they really were. They looked like giant bugs walking on 2 legs. Each one stood 7 feet tall with a hard shell that gleamed under the lights. They had 4 arms, and each arm ended in sharp claws. Their heads had big eyes that seemed to see everything and long feelers that moved all the time. The first group of Vraxians marched into the plaza. 6 of them carried long guns. Behind them came one that seemed to be their leader. It was bigger than the rest, and its shell was marked with strange signs. The Vraxian leader spoke, and a small box on its chest turned the sounds into words humans could understand. "All commerce units will submit to immediate inventory assessment," it said in a flat voice. "Resistance is inefficient and will result in biomass reduction." Frank knew what that meant. The Vraxians would take everything of value. Anyone who tried to stop them would be killed. Most people in the plaza stood still, too scared to move. The trading post's own guards were nowhere to be seen. They had probably already been killed when the Vraxians first broke in. Chuck kept walking forward, right toward the group of Vraxians. Frank couldn't believe it. 1 man against 7 giant bug aliens with guns? It was crazy. But Chuck moved like he wasn't afraid at all. The Vraxian leader noticed Chuck. It turned its big eyes toward him and raised 1 hand. The other Vraxians pointed their guns at Chuck. Human, the leader said through its talking box. Return to formation or face immediate termination. Chuck stopped about 20 feet away from the Vraxians. I'm afraid I can't do that, he said in the same calm voice he had used in the store. This trading post is under my protection. The Vraxians made a strange clicking sound. Frank realized they were laughing. The leader leaned forward. And who are you to make such a claim? My name is Chuck Norris, he said. Frank expected the Vraxians to start shooting. Instead, something very strange happened. The Vraxians stopped laughing. They went completely still. Even their feelers stopped moving. The leader straightened, up so fast that its feelers hit the ceiling. The roundhouse one, the leader clicked, and its voice box couldn't hide the shake in its voice. The walker among the stars? Frank couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Vraxians, who everyone said feared nothing in the whole galaxy, were backing away from one human man. There has been an error, the leader said quickly. Our navigational systems must have malfunctioned. This sector was not intended for assessment. Chuck crossed his arms. I think it would be best if you left now. Agreed, the leader said. We will depart immediately. Our deepest apologies for the intrusion, Roundhouse 1. The Vraxians began to move backward, never taking their eyes off Chuck. They kept their guns up, but they were clearly not going to use them. They moved faster and faster until they were almost running back the way they had come. Frank stepped out from the store, his mouth open in surprise. He wasn't the only one. All around the plaza, people were coming out of hiding places, staring at Chuck and the retreating Vraxians. What just happened? Frank asked as he walked up to Chuck. Before Chuck could answer, the trading post shook again. This time, it was the Vraxian ship pulling away. Through the big windows that looked out into space, Frank could see the huge, ugly ship moving away fast. Then there was a flash of light as it jumped to hyperspace, gone in an instant. The emergency. Lights turned off and the normal lights came back on. Over the speakers, a shaky voice said, Attention all beings. The unknown ship has departed. All clear. All clear. People began talking all at once. Some laughed with relief. Some cried. Many looked at Chuck with wonder and fear. How did you do that? Frank asked. They were terrified of you. Chuck sighed. He suddenly looked tired. It's a complicated story, he said. Come on, let's go back to your shop. I think we both could use a drink. Back in the shop, Frank found an old bottle of Good Earth whiskey his father had left him. He poured some for Chuck and some for himself. His hands were still shaking a little. So, Frank said after they both took a sip, are you going to tell me what that was all about? The Vraxians called you the Roundhouse 1 and the Walker Among the Stars. What does that mean? Chuck looked into his glass. It means the Vraxians have long memories, he said. And they believe some very strange things about me. Strange like what? Frank asked. Strange like I'm not human, Chuck said. Or at least, not just human. They think I'm something more. Something they should be afraid of. Frank shook his head. But why? It started about 50 Earth years ago, Chuck said. I was younger then, but still not young. I was on a ship called the Dallas, one of the first long-range ships humans built. We were exploring, pushing out further than anyone had gone before. He took another sip of his whiskey. We didn't know it, but we had entered Vraxian space. What happened? Frank asked. A Vraxian scout ship found us, Chuck said. Back then, humans didn't know much about the Vraxians. We didn't know they saw other thinking beings as just things to use up or throw away. The captain tried to talk to them, to be friendly. Chuck's face grew dark with the memory. They came aboard our ship. They killed most of the crew right away. But not you, Frank said. Not me, Chuck agreed. I was in the ship's gym when they attacked. I heard the shooting and hid. I watched as they killed my friends. What did you do? Frank asked. Chuck looked up from his glass and his eyes were hard. I fought back. The Vraxians are strong, and their shells are hard to break, but they have weak spots. I found those weak spots. You beat them? Frank asked. All of them? Not all. Chuck said. One got away. It went back to its ship and escaped. But it saw what I did to the others. And in the Vraxian mind, that meant something important. He finished his drink. You see, Vraxians believe that if a being can do something that should be impossible, that being has what they call the unbound spiral. It means a soul that can't be held back by what's real. In simple words, they think I can break the rules of the universe. And they've been afraid of you ever since? Frank asked. Not just me, Chuck said. They're afraid of any human who might be like me. That's why they usually stay away from human space. He stood up. And that's why I'm here. Earth knew the Vraxians were coming to this trading post. They sent me to scare them away. Frank stared at Chuck with new understanding. They sent you because they knew the Vraxians would recognize you. Chuck nodded. And now they'll tell others that they saw me here. The story will grow. The fear will spread. He put his empty glass down. And maybe, just maybe, that will keep humans safe. A little longer. The next morning, the trading post was busy with repair work. The Vraxians had not done much damage during their short visit, but they had broken through some doors and cut some power lines. Teams of workers fixed these problems while everyone else tried to return to normal life. Frank opened his shop as usual, but he found it hard to focus on work. He kept thinking about what Chuck had told him. It seemed too strange to be true, yet he had seen the Vraxians run away with his own eyes. Around noon, a woman in a neat gray uniform walked into the shop. She had short black hair and a serious face. A small badge on her uniform showed she worked for Earth Security. Frank Miller? She asked. Frank nodded. That's me. How can I help you? My name is Officer Linda Allen, she said. I need to talk to you about what happened yesterday. Frank felt nervous. Am I in trouble? Linda shook her head. Not at all. But you were with Chuck Norris when the Vraxians came. We need to know exactly what you saw and heard. Frank told her everything, how Chuck had come into the shop, how the Vraxians had arrived, how Chuck had faced them, and how they had run away when they heard his name. Linda took notes on a small pad. When Frank finished, she put the pad away and looked at him carefully. Mr. Miller, what I'm about to tell you is secret information. You can't tell anyone else, do you understand? Frank nodded again. Good, Linda said. The story Chuck told you about the Vraxians is true, but it's not the whole truth. I think you need to know more. She looked around the shop to make sure they were alone. The Vraxians aren't the only aliens who know about Chuck Norris. There are others, and not all of them are afraid of him. What do you mean? Frank asked. I mean that some of them want to test the stories, Linda said. They want to see if Chuck Norris is really as powerful as the stories say. Is that why you're here? Frank asked. To warn Chuck? Partly, Linda said. But also to warn you. You were seen with him. Some aliens might think you know him well. They might come to you for information. Frank felt a cold feeling in his stomach. What should I do? Be careful, Linda said. And call this number if you see anything strange. She handed him a small card with a simple number on it. After Linda left, Frank tried to go back to work, but he kept looking at the door, wondering who might come in next. Late in the afternoon, when the trading post lights were dimming to show it was evening time, the door to Frank's shop opened again. Chuck walked in, looking the same as he had the day before. Hello, Frank, he said. I came to say goodbye. I'm leaving on the next ship. All ready? Frank asked. Where are you going? Another trading post, Chuck said. Another place where humans need protection. Frank was about to reply when the shop door opened again. 3 beings walked in. They were not human. They were not Vraxians either. They were tall and thin with gray skin and large dark eyes. Frank had seen their kind before. They were Nilari, known for being very smart and very curious. Chuck Norris, said the first Nilari. Its voice was soft and high. We hope to find you here. Chuck turned to face them. He did not look surprised. What do you want? To talk, the Nilari said. My name is Selar. My friends are Vren and Kopi. We have heard many stories about you. We want to know which ones are true. Why? Chuck asked. Knowledge is important to us, Sailor said. And you are a mystery. The Vraxians fear you. Humans respect you. We want to understand why. Chuck looked at the three Nilari for a long moment. Then he said, Some questions don't have easy answers. We do not need easy answers, Sailor said. We need true ones. Frank watched, not sure what to do. Should he call the number Linda had given him? But the Nilari didn't seem dangerous. They just seemed curious. What if I don't want to answer your questions? Chuck asked. Then we will find answers another way, Sailor said. Perhaps by testing you ourselves. The air in the shop seemed to get colder. Frank felt the same fear he had felt when the Vraxians arrived. That would be a mistake, Chuck said quietly. We are willing to take that risk, Sailor said. Unless you give us a reason not to. Chuck sighed. Fine. You want truth? Here's some truth. I'm just a man. I was born on Earth. I trained hard all my life to be strong and fast. I learned how to fight. I got good at it. But I'm not magic. I can't break the rules of the universe. Then why do the Vraxians fear you? Sailor asked. Because I killed 12 of their warriors with my bare hands, Chuck said. And because the one who got away didn't understand how I did it. It thought I had special powers. It couldn't accept that a human could be that good at fighting. And now? Vren, the second Nilari asked. Now you let them believe the stories? I do, Chuck said. Because those stories keep humans safe. The three Nilari looked at each other, their large eyes blinking slowly. You protect your people with fear, Kopi, the third Nilari said. Is that not the same as what the Vraxians do? No, Chuck said. The Vraxians use fear to take from others. I use it to stop them from taking. There's a big difference. Sailor stepped closer to Chuck. We have one more question. The Vraxians called you the Walker among the stars. What does that mean? Chuck smiled a little. It means I've been doing this job for a very long time. How long? Sailor asked. Long enough to know that some stories are better left as stories, Chuck said. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ship to catch. The Nilari moved aside to let Chuck pass. As he reached the door, Sailor called after him. The stories will not protect humans forever. Sooner or later, someone will test them. Chuck looked back. Maybe, but not today. After Chuck left, the Nilari looked at Frank. You have met him twice now, Sailor said. Do you believe he is just a man? Frank thought about everything he had seen. Chuck standing alone against the Vraxians, the fear in their voices when they heard his name, the calm way he faced danger. I believe, Frank said carefully, that sometimes just a man is enough. The Nilari seemed to think about this. Then, without another word, they left the shop. Frank stood alone, looking at the door. He thought about calling the number Linda had given him, but decided against it. The Nilari hadn't done anything wrong. They had just asked questions. As he closed up the shop for the night, Frank wondered if he would ever see Chuck Norris again. And he wondered which was more powerful, the man or the stories about him. 3 days passed without any more strange visitors to the trading post. Frank kept his shop open and tried to act normal, but he found himself watching every customer who came through the door. He kept the card with Linda's number in his pocket, at all times. On the 4th day after Chuck left, the trading post got a message that a big Earth ship was coming. The ship was called the Eagle, and it was not a normal trading ship. It was a military ship with guns and strong shields. People on the trading post began to worry. Why would Earth send a military ship here? The Eagle arrived that afternoon. It was huge and gray with the Earth flag painted on its side. It docked at the biggest bay, and soon after, a group of people in Earth military uniforms walked into the trading post. Frank watched from the door of his shop as they passed by. There were 6 of them, 4 men and 2 women. They all looked strong and serious. The one in front, a tall man with short gray hair, seemed to be their leader. As they walked past Frank's shop, the leader stopped and looked at the sign above the door. Then he looked at Frank. "Are you Frank Miller?" he asked. Frank nodded, feeling nervous again. "Yes, sir. I'm Captain Paul Davis of the Earth Defense Force," the man said. "We need to talk." He turned to the others. "Secure the area. Make sure we're not interrupted." The other 5 spread out, taking positions where they could watch who came and went. Captain Davis walked into Frank's shop. Frank followed him, wondering what was happening now. "You met Chuck Norris," Davis said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Frank said. "He was here when the Vraxians came." Davis nodded. "And you also met 3 Nilari afterward." Frank was surprised. How did Davis know about that? "Yes, they came looking for Chuck." "Did they say why?" Davis asked. "They said they wanted to understand him," Frank said. "They wanted to know which stories about him were true." Davis frowned. "And what did Chuck tell them?" Frank thought back to the conversation. He told them he was just a man, that he wasn't magic, that the Vraxians were afraid of him because he killed some of their warriors once. "Did the Nilari believe him?" Davis asked. "I don't know," Frank said. "They left right after Chuck did. They asked me if I thought he was just a man." "And what did you say?" Davis asked. Frank repeated what he had told the Nilari. "I said that sometimes just a man is enough." Davis looked at Frank for a long moment. Then he pulled out a small device and spoke into it. "He's clean. Send her in." A minute later, one of the other officers came into the shop. Following her was Linda Allen, the Earth security officer who had talked to Frank before. "Hello again, Frank," Linda said. "What's going on?" Frank asked. "Why are there Earth soldiers here?" Linda and Davis looked at each other. Then Linda said, "We've been tracking the Nilari, the 3 who came to see you. They're not just regular Nilari, they're scientists who work for the Vraxians." Frank was confused. "But the Vraxians ran away when they saw Chuck. They were scared of him." "Some Vraxians are scared," Davis said. "Others are angry. They don't like being afraid of humans. They want to prove that Chuck Norris isn't special. That's why they sent the Nilari to find out more about him." "But Chuck left," Frank said. "The Nilari didn't learn anything new. They learned that Chuck cares about this trading post," Linda said. "And they learned that you know him." Frank began to understand. "You think they'll come back?" "We know they'll come back," Davis said. "But not the Nilari this time. The Vraxians themselves. They've sent a war fleet, 6 ships, all of them full of warriors ready to fight." Frank felt cold with fear. "When?" "Soon," Linda said. "Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day." "What are we going to do?" Frank asked. "Can your ship fight 6 Vraxian ships?" "No," Davis said honestly. "The Eagle is tough, but not that tough. We're here to get people off the trading post. We're going to evacuate everyone we can." "But Chuck scared them away before," Frank said. "Can't we call him back?" Linda shook her head. "He's too far away now. And besides, the Vraxians coming this time won't run. They're coming to fight." Frank looked out the window of his shop. The trading post was his home. His father had built this shop. Now it would all be destroyed. "How long do we have?" he asked. "We start evacuating in 1 hour," Davis said. "The Eagle can take about 500 people. There are almost 700 on this post. We'll take the children first, then the old and sick. Everyone else will have to wait for the second trip." "If there is a second trip," Linda said quietly. Davis shot her a look. "There will be. We'll make sure of it." They left Frank's shop to start organizing the evacuation. Frank stood alone, thinking about what to do. Should he take his most valuable things? Should he just leave everything? What would his father have done? As he was trying to decide, a new customer came into the shop. It was an old woman with white hair. She wore simple clothes and walked with a stick. "Are you open?" she asked. "I need some medicine for my headaches." Frank was about to tell her to forget the medicine and get ready to leave, but something stopped him. There was something familiar about the old woman. "Do I know you?" he asked. The old woman smiled. No, but I know you, Frank Miller, and I know what's coming. Frank felt a chill run down his back. Who are you? My name is Bella, she said. I work for the same people Chuck Norris works for. Earth Security? Frank asked. Bella laughed. No, something older, something bigger. She came closer. The Vraxians are coming, Frank. They want to destroy this place to prove they're not afraid of humans. I know, Frank said. The Earth soldiers are evacuating everyone. Not everyone will get out in time, Bella said, and the trading post will be lost. What can we do? Frank asked. Bella looked at him with eyes that seemed too young for her old face. We can fight back, she said, but I need your help. My help? Frank said. What can I do? I'm not Chuck Norris. No, Bella agreed, you're not, but you don't need to be. You just need to be brave. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small round device. It was smooth and silver, with a single button on top. This is a beacon, she said. It sends a signal that only certain ships can hear. If you press this button when the Vraxians come, help will arrive. What kind of help? Frank asked. The kind that can stop a Vraxian war fleet, Bella said. She held out the beacon. Frank didn't take it right away. Why me? Why not give it to Captain Davis or the other Earth soldiers? Because they follow rules, Bella said. They have orders, they won't believe this will work. But you've seen Chuck Norris face the Vraxians. You've seen the impossible happen. You might believe enough to press the button when the time comes. Frank slowly reached out and took the beacon. It felt warm in his hand, almost alive. When do I press it? He asked. When the Vraxians are here, Bella said. When all seems lost. Press it then and don't let anyone stop you. She turned to leave the shop. At the door, she looked back at Frank. Remember what you told the Nilari, Frank? Sometimes just a man is enough. Then she was gone, leaving Frank holding the strange device and wondering if he was brave enough to use it when the time came. The evacuation of the trading post began 1 hour later, just as Captain Davis had said. People lined up at the main docking bay where the Eagle waited. They carried small bags with their most important things. Children cried. Parents tried to calm them. Everyone looked scared. Frank watched from a distance. He had closed his shop but had not packed anything. The small silver beacon Bella had given him was in his pocket. He kept touching it, wondering if it would really work. Linda Allen found him standing there. Frank, you should get in line, she said. The first ship will leave soon. We want to get as many people away as possible before the Vraxians arrive. When do you think they'll get here? Frank asked. Our scanners show 6 ships heading this way, Linda said. They'll be here in about 4 hours. The Eagle can make the trip to the nearest safe station in 3 hours, then it will take 3 hours to come back. It's going to be close. Frank nodded. I'll wait for the second trip, he said. Let people with families go first. Linda looked like she wanted to argue, but then just nodded. Okay, but stay ready to leave quickly when the Eagle comes back. Frank spent the next few hours helping with the evacuation. He carried bags for old people. He helped a mother with 3 small children get them all on board. He tried to keep everyone calm. Finally, the Eagle was full. 500 people were safely on board. Captain Davis made one last check, then gave the order to leave. The big ship pulled away from the trading post and moved off into space. Soon it was just a small light among the stars, and then it was gone. Only about 200 people were left on the trading post, along with 20 Earth soldiers. They gathered in the main plaza to wait. Some tried to sleep. Others talked quietly. A few prayed. Davis set up screens that showed what the trading post's scanners could see. Everyone watched as the 6 Vraxian ships got closer and closer. They were warships, big and mean-looking. Each one was twice the size of the Eagle. They'll be here in about 30 minutes, Davis told everyone. The Eagle will return in about 5 hours, I won't lie to you. It's going to be hard to hold the Vraxians off that long, but we're going to try. The Earth soldiers set up gun positions at all the entrances to the trading post. They were brave. But Frank knew they didn't have much chance against so many Vraxians. Frank felt the beacon in his pocket. Should he show it to Davis? Would the captain believe it could help? Frank wasn't sure. Bella had said the soldiers wouldn't believe. 20 minutes later, the screen showed the Vraxian ships surrounding the trading post. They were close enough now that people could see details on their hulls. They had strange patterns painted on them, like the marks on the leader's shell from the first group of Vraxians. "They're sending a message," one of the soldiers said. The screens changed to show a Vraxian. It was bigger than the ones Frank had seen before. Its shell was dark and covered with many marks. When it spoke, its voice was deep and angry. "Humans of the trading post," it said. "I am War Leader Kraz. You have been hiding behind stories for too long. The one you call Chuck Norris is not here to save you. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will make them slow." Davis stepped forward. "This is Captain Paul Davis of the Earth Defense Force. This trading post is under Earth protection. Leave now or face the consequences." The Vraxian made that clicking sound of laughter. "You are 200 against 600. You have one ship coming, we have 6 here now. What consequences can you offer?" Davis didn't answer. He turned to his soldiers. "Get ready," he said. "They'll try to force their way in through the main docking bay first." Frank felt the beacon growing warmer in his pocket. It was almost hot now. The time was coming. He had to decide if he believed enough to use it. The Vraxian ships moved closer. One of them attached itself to the main docking bay, just as Davis had said. The trading post shook as the Vraxian ship forced the doors open. "Here they come," Davis said. "Everyone stay back. Let us handle this." The Earth soldiers raised their guns. They looked calm but determined. They would fight, even though they knew they might not win. Frank made his decision. He pulled out the beacon and pushed the button. Nothing seemed to happen. No sound, no light, nothing. Had it failed? Or had Bella tricked him? The first Vraxians appeared at the end of the main corridor. They carried big guns and wore armor over their shells. There were many of them, too many to count. The Earth soldiers began to fire. Some Vraxians fell, but more kept coming. Frank felt sad and angry. The beacon had done nothing. The trading post would be lost. All these people would die. Then one of the soldiers watching the screen shouted, "Captain, there's something coming. In fast." Everyone looked at the screens. Something was moving toward the trading post. It was small, much smaller than the Eagle or the Vraxian ships. It moved incredibly fast, leaving a trail of light behind it. "What is it?" Davis asked. "I don't know," the soldier said. "It's not on any of our records." The small ship reached the trading post in minutes. It didn't slow down as it approached. Instead, it seemed to speed up. It shot past the Vraxian ships, moving so fast that they couldn't react. Then it stopped, right in front of the trading post's main window. Everyone could see it now. It was a small ship just big enough for one person. It was sleek and silver, shaped like an arrow. The Vraxian attack stopped. The Vraxians in the corridor backed away. On the screens, the war leader Kraz looked shocked. "It can't be," he said. "The stories are not true. They can't be true." A voice came from the small ship. It was Chuck Norris. "War leader Kraz," he said. "You came looking for me. Here I am." Kraz made an angry sound. "One man in one small ship? What can you do against 6 warships?" "Would you like to find out?" Chuck asked. For a long moment, nothing happened. Everyone held their breath. Then, one by one, the Vraxian ships began to pull away from the trading post. The Vraxians in the corridor retreated back to their ship. "This is not over, human," Kraz said. "We will meet again." "I look forward to it," Chuck replied. The Vraxian ships moved away quickly. Soon they were gone, jumping to hyperspace just as the first one had done. Chuck's small ship moved to the docking bay and came aboard. When he walked into the main plaza, everyone cheered. Davis came forward to meet him. "That was amazing," Davis said. "But how did you get here so fast? And what kind of ship is that?" Chuck smiled. "Let's just say I have friends who know how to build fast ships, and I came because someone called for help." He looked at Frank. Someone who believes that sometimes just a man is enough. Frank touched the beacon in his pocket. It was cool now. He smiled back at Chuck. He had believed, and that belief had saved them all. Later, when the eagle returned and everyone was safe, Frank asked Chuck about Bella and the beacon. "There are more things in the universe than most people know," Chuck said. "More people like me, protecting humanity in different ways. Bella is one of them. The beacon is how we call each other when needed." "Will you tell me more?" Frank asked. Chuck looked at him for a long moment. "Maybe someday," he said. "If you want to learn." Frank thought about everything that had happened, about the Vraxians and the Nilari, about Bella and the beacon, about a man who was just a man but somehow also more. "Yes," Frank said. "I want to learn." Chuck smiled and held out his hand. "Then welcome to the Walkers Among the Stars, Frank Miller. The universe just got a lot bigger for you."